Poilievre took questions for the first time since Conservative MP Matt Genereux announced he was quitting politics. And MP Chris d'Entremont defected to the Liberals, blaming Poilievre's leadership.
I felt it was a part of a frat house rather than a serious political party.
My plan is to continue to lead and be the only leader in the country that's fighting for an affordable Canada.
Poilievre was back on the attack, seeking to discredit d'Entremont.
Well, first of all, I just quote Mr. d'Entremont. He said, and I'm going to quote,
repeating a quote from this speech in September.
We warned that Liberals, their out-of-control spending and massive deficits were irresponsible. But of course, they didn't listen.
This is a quote from just a few months ago, where he said that Liberal food price inflation was inhumane. And you know what? He's right.
Pierre Poilievre just held his first press conference since two MPs abandoned his caucus last week, and when asked if he is reflecting on his leadership style after one of them explicitly cited his negative approach to politics as the reason for leaving, Poilievre's answer was a flat no. Not a moment of introspection, not a hint of self-awareness, just doubling down on his combative strategy whilst dismissing legitimate criticism as liberal lies. It is peak Poilievre, refusing to acknowledge that maybe, just maybe, his approach is driving people away. Welcome to Canada Newsletter, where we break down the press conference that revealed everything about why the Conservative Party is hemorrhaging members. Before we dive into what Poilievre actually said when confronted about his leadership and why his refusal to reflect might be his biggest political mistake yet, hit that subscribe button and click the notifications bell. You will not want to miss how this Conservative crisis continues to unfold. Right, let us get into this properly revealing moment. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre said Wednesday he is not reflecting on his leadership style after two MPs announced they were leaving his caucus, including one who cited the leader's negative approach to politics as the reason why he is calling it quits on the party. Speaking to reporters in Calgary at his first press conference since the defections last week, Poilievre 4 times quoted back a past anti-Liberal statement from Nova Scotia MP Chris d'Entremont, who crossed the floor to the Liberals when asked about trouble in the Conservative caucus. That is classic deflection, avoiding the question by pointing out perceived hypocrisy rather than addressing the substance of the criticism. One reporter asked Poilievre if those two departures say anything about his leadership or if they have prompted him to reflect on his leadership style. Poilievre's answer was no. My plan is to continue to lead and be the only leader that is fighting for an affordable Canada where our people who work hard can afford a home and food. That is my agenda, he said. Translation, I am not changing anything. And if you do not like it, that is your problem. Asked to respond to accusations from d'Entremont that the party is run like a frat house rather than a serious political party, Poilievre referred to that MP's statement in the House of Commons about Liberal food inflation. Again, deflection rather than engagement with the actual criticism. In an interview with CBC News on Sunday, d'Entremont accused two senior Conservatives of barging into his office, yelling at him, and calling him a snake when they first found out he was considering a switch to the Liberals, behavior he said sealed the deal on his decision to leave the party. The MPs in question, Conservative House Leader Andrew Scheer and the party's whip, Chris Warkentin, have conceded d'Entremont was called a snake at one point during their conversation, but said they entered his office calmly and spoke in a measured voice. A spokesperson for Poilievre said d'Entremont is a liar who will fit in well with what they called other lying Liberals. That response is incredibly aggressive and personal, which frankly proves d'Entremont's point about the Conservative Party's toxic culture. Poilievre said that as recently as September, d'Entremont was lamenting in the House of Commons that the cost of living has skyrocketed over the last 6 years of Liberal rule. In a September 25 statement, d'Entremont said food price inflation has been inhumane and called for the repeal of the government's industrial carbon tax. It is not just policy, it is survival. We need affordable food, he said, whilst calling for the tax to be lifted on fertilizer and farm equipment in particular. Whilst Prime Minister Mark Carney has vowed to keep that tax after repealing the consumer carbon levy, d'Entremont joined the party anyway. Poilievre is pointing out that d'Entremont once criticized Liberal policies, as if that makes his defection hypocritical. But people can change their minds, especially when they feel their current party no longer represents them. 2 days after d'Entremont's departure, Conservative MP Matt Genereux, who was also rumored to be considering crossing the floor, announced he is quitting politics altogether sometime in the new year. Those defections, which sources say caused panic in the Conservative Party, have given the minority Liberal government more breathing room to get its agenda through Parliament. It also brings the Liberals closer to a majority of seats in the House of Commons. In one testy exchange with a reporter, Poilievre said the media should give more coverage to Liberal MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith's critical comments about some aspects of the government's recent budget. "I know there will be wall-to-wall coverage of this turmoil," Poilievre said sarcastically. That sarcasm reveals frustration, not confidence. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, this has been Canada Newsletter.